In Fear and Hunger, the god of love is Sylvian, a strange tentacle monster whose presence in history is marked by extravagant orgies and the flourishing of life. She's one of two primary deities, with her partner Grogroth, the Destroyer, and her blessings are felt throughout history. But there are limits to her blessings. One of the first enemies you'll encounter in the series is the Guard. They are humans who are engorged with the energies of Sylvian, as much as they are invigorated by the energy of Grogroth. Some of the Guards performed a special Sylvian ritual, the marriage. If two consenting parties have intercourse in a ritual circle, they will merge together, body and soul. The dungeon is, unexpectedly, a place of love, and we find many marriages here. Enki and his ghoul, Buckman and Sir Seymour, the Lizard Mage, and the Moonless Guards. This collection reveals just how strange Sylvian's ideas are for humans. The ritual requires consent, but Sylvian is happy to let animals and the dead partake as well. Skeletons cannot participate, as they have no bits to actually perform with. Regardless, it's clear that what Sylvian permits and even encourages is strange and frightening for humans. But there are limits to her blessings, or perhaps limits to how much of her blessing the human body can take. Merging two beings together creates a marriage. In most ways, it is still functionally a human, although it looks odd and is stronger than normal, and the process heals all wounds. But if this new being performs the ritual again, the body begins to break down into an abomination. Melting flesh, extra body parts, distended limbs, loss of functionality of extremities. The human body isn't meant to be reshaped like clay. Perhaps this is a blessing in disguise, but the abominable marriage cannot participate in the ritual a third time, as their genitals lose all functionality. But, against all reason, can one push further? Can one become closer to Sylvian? There is a limit to how much the human body can take, but instead of performing multiple marriage rituals sequentially, what if they were all performed at once? What if many people undertook the Sylvian marriage at the same time? Well, it goes about as well as you might expect. All participants merge together in a nightmare blob of limbs and flesh, squirming in agony until they're put out of their misery. The human hydra. In the white bunker in Termina, we see yet another hydra, a platoon of troops reveling in one last party before the end of the world. But why would they do this? Why would anyone perform a Sylvian marriage? It's an act of beautiful unison. The deepest act of love one can imagine. The unifying of two souls together, forever. It can also be done out of fear and desperation. The human hydra is the remains of the prison guards, desperately clinging onto each other in the darkness of the dungeon, the only human connection they had left in that evil place. Although, after that, are they even still human? The commander of the Hydra platoon is wearing a curious mask. It's a bunny mask. The rabbit is a symbol of Sylvian. Participants in her rituals often don bunny masks to channel the fertile energies of these prolific creatures. The Hydra commander's is the same, albeit with some modern alterations. The name bunny masks is even used to refer to the cult of Sylvian, who wear these masks while engaging in their divine orgies. The overflowing life magic can even heal the participants, a signature of her spells, but this magic also has a chance to ensnare them, turning them into mindless flesh slaves. Dan's parents were members of the cult. They would regularly wander into the woods to engage in their rituals, their minds breaking down over time. They tried to pass their teachings onto him when he was young. The implications of this are left up to the viewer's discretion. Later, they would fall victim to the soothing effects of the rituals and never return from the woods. Perhaps they too became a marriage or something worse. Much later, Dan's wife Elise, after she became a sulfur cult member, forcibly stitched people together in a bastardization of the Sylvian marriage. She created the Minotaur, the Sojobs, the living flesh, and the strange human centipede-type monstrosity found in her bunker. But really, is there any difference between using magic or technology to merge people together to create monsters? Being one of the prime deities, Sylvian's magic was the prime target for mimicry, often poorly. The creation of new life without the blessing of the gods is something humanity has desired for millennia, and have always failed at. The new god Valtiel the Enlightened One, of the Fellowship, had many, many failed experiments. The streets of the Dead City are littered with these soulless puppets, the embryo and the uterus, the Lord of Flies, the Moulded, and the Harvestman, although sometimes they had alternative uses. The uterus and the harvestman were created to fulfill desires, or were at least primarily used for that. The uterus was used by Valtiel to relieve his stress, and they birthed soulless, cannibalistic children from this union. The harvestmen seek to satisfy people, but are unable to do so. Desire can be incredibly strong in a being, especially when it is frustrated or denied for a long time. This desire can develop into mania and obsession. The new gods feed off of this, channeling desires from their devoted and fueling themselves, keeping themselves alive for far longer than they should. Once they lose their faithful, they fade into obscurity and join their brethren in the dusty annals of history, the Hall of the Gods. The new gods we meet in Termina had their methods for harvesting this love clearly shown. The Heartless One is a performer. The Radiant One is summoned by a scratched out portrait of a young man, reminiscent of frustrated love. Even Nashra has the Yellow Mages. And the Yellow King has, well, the entire nation of Bremen worshipping him. Ron Chambara has his poetry books. Stakes are high, you are also and more so. Live your lie and play with my blood torso. Who would believe all your tries to blacken my name, dead crow as a prize? They say that a tear only dries, so I want to see the day, even Grogoroth cries. They will come to know this day as the cruel age. They will come to know this page as the fourth phase. Won't you die? But this desire isn't always directed at the gods. Samaria is a stalker obsessed with Marina. They both attended the Vatican for education, although their circumstances were a little different. Marina was a child prodigy of a high-ranking church member sent there to study magic, and Samaria was a living human sacrifice, trained in rituals to burn out her body to try and summon the truant gods. Samaria watched Marina from afar, but her magical ability to read minds let her see into the private thoughts of her object of desire at all times, even in intimate moments. Eventually, she believed they truly shared a mutual connection. However, Marina truly has no idea who Samaria is. They never met. But when she returned to Preheval, Samaria followed her and, seeing the anger in her mind for her father, wanted to give her a gift. She killed him. Perhaps he deserved it. By all accounts, he was not a very nice man. But now any answers Marina wanted, or any sense of closure, was stolen from her. In the end, they were family, and he did love her, and she loved him, in their own ways. The Knight Das is defined by her obsessive love for Legard. When she joined his mercenary band, his charisma, seductive words, and military skill led her to quickly fall in love with him. Even his fall to darkness didn't sway her devotion, and she looked past his wanton slaughters. When he was captured, she travelled into the dangerous dungeons of fear and hunger to save him, putting her own life on the line for him. Even at the best of times, the dungeon is a dangerous place. After all, it was a fort bristling with guards and priests eager for blood sacrifices. Although, nobody had any idea it had gotten much, much worse. When she finally does find him, he claims to have lost his memory. The truth is much worse. He's lying, and is willing to sacrifice her and everything else to snatch his goal so close at hand. Like Samarie, Das' desire was and never will be fulfilled. In fact, both objects of desire seem almost unaware of this. Legard at least doesn't seem to care about Das' feelings at all, and wasn't even counting on her rescuing him, having hired Kahara to do so. At best, she's a pawn for him. At worst, she's not in his mind at all. But it's not like Legard was loveless. In fact, his entire plan was born from love. In his dreams, he met the goddess of endlessness, Nilvan. His desire for her, his desire for the endless potential of humanity, resulted in the birth of the girl. What was so special about him, I wonder, that his child would end up rivaling the power of the old gods? The girl, born of a love of human potential, became an ascended god. The only other known ascended god, of course, is Olmir, the Ascended One. He, too, was born of love and obsession. Sylvian commanded Vitruvia to design humanity based off herself, the goddess of love, then breathed life into the designs. Later on, Vitruvia, obsessed with perfecting humanity, created Olmir. Olmir, the god of humanity, is often seen as a counterpart to Venushka, the god of nature. Venushka, too, was born of an act of love. Grogroth mated with Sylvian, and a pine cone fermented within her for an aeon. Olmir was born of a seed fermenting inside his father. Well, we know how the stories of Olmir and Venushka ended. Love is more than just lust and procreation. It's the basis for bonds of many kinds. Ragnvalder rescued a lonely wolf from deep underground, and it stayed with his family for generations, until his descendants thought of her as their sister. The reason Ragnvalder even entered the dungeons in the first place was to get revenge for his murdered family. Kahara enters the dungeon too for his family, to provide for his wife and their unborn child. In fact, the only member of the original four not motivated by love is Enki, but even his backstory is tinged with it. Canonically, he wasn't able to murder his twin sister because he loved her, and was cast into the world to abide with the insects. The insects who belong to the god of the depths, who treats all outcasts with love. An alien love, but still. Marco, Olivia, Dan, and Marina all travel to Prehevel because their family members are in danger, and they perhaps unknowingly are risking their lives to save them. Most importantly, Logic pulls the train into the festival to summon her sister Olivia to stay with her forever. Even Legard's plans, as dark and bloody as they are born from a twisted love of humanity. He wants to end their suffering and truly unite them, under a god that truly loves them. Not an alien god with alien love. People focus on the darkness and death of the Fear and Hunger games, and while I don't really blame them, there's a lot more than that. Half the world is motivated by death, yes, but the other half is motivated by love. Sometimes we don't recognise it as such, and sometimes it's a bit strange or outright twisted, but it's love nonetheless. The first game ended with the god of despair rising up from the darkness to inflict itself upon humanity, who used that emotion to build themselves up. Termina ends with a god of love being born from a sea of blood, one that promises to end death and bring hope to all of humanity. Is there still room for love when there's no death? What happens to one side of the coin when you destroy the other? Thank you very much for watching. The next video I was to release was to be about Logic and Termina's ending A, but it's taken quite a long time, and I wanted to make something smaller for you guys in the meantime. I'm sorry for taking so long with it, but I'm working very hard on making it the best video I've ever made. This video was generously funded by the patrons, whose names are on screen now. It's the best way to support the channel and to get more content like this. You can also get access to video scripts, your name in the credits, and to see videos a week earlier than the public. Thank you again. My name's Duke, and I'll see you next time.